Welcome to the JackHorny.com show.
Alright then folks, I'm gonna cover a film that I posted. It's from 1965, brackets, that's what it claims to be anyway. Perversion for Profit. I believe it's an American anti-porn propaganda film. Now, the reason I posted it, although it might look a bit old-fashioned today, in actual fact, what's interesting about this footage is that if you listen to a lot of people who do the anti-porn today, they sort of give a take, say basically the same stuff in the same style. For instance, the Gail Dines videos, if you watch those, and I'll go through them later, they both have a similar rhetoric, the shock factor. In this film, it starts off with porn being a multi-million pound business, and it's shocking, and they shows a picture of a greedy businessman, which is really odd when it's America, because you think it'd be pro-capitalism, but apparently it's capitalism doesn't exist for that thing. Well, Gail Dines also does the same thing. She's always on about the money aspect. Admittedly, she states she's anti-capitalism, so fair enough. She has a beef, I think, about anyone making a profit, which is always interesting when people are a bit, the socialist lot. I mean, what'll be interesting is if she is anti-capitalism, and I presume by definition she's pro-tax. The first question you always ask somebody who's pro-tax and anti-capitalist and wants everyone to pay more taxes, ask them how much extra they've paid in tax. Often they don't ever pay any more, and they've always got an excuse. Oh, well, I'll do it when someone else does it. Yeah, right. It's always somebody else they want to pay. They're happy keeping the money. It's a bit like, and this is going off subject, but it's a bit like the BBC lot. You'll have all these left-wing comedians going on about tax and socialism, but guess what? They all keep the money. I bet none of them turn down any money. I mean, now they know that all these pensioners are going to get taxed with this new with the TV license. I wonder how many will be saying, no, I don't. I want a reduction in my pay. I bet none. Well, we'll see. I'm not saying none will, but it'll be always interesting. You know, let's see if they put the money where the mouth is, literally. I mean, if you're pro-tax, pay tax extra, give every single penny you've got, keep a little back for a bit of food, fair enough, and heating and whatnot, but pay extra tax. Then I'll have a bit of then I'll believe you. But a lot of these people, like all the singers and stuff, they're all into it, but they never pay anymore. Funnily enough, it's always the people who get paid slightly more than them they believe should be paying more tax. They're always under the tax limit. Anyway, let's go through. This is going to be a little test because I've not done this before. I'm going to play the film on my phone with my headphones on, so it might be starting and stopping, and so hopefully you won't hear the because I've put the film on. You might get a bit of the noise. We'll see. So I'm just pressing play now. Oh, by the way, I cleaned up the sound a bit, so if you've heard this footage before, it might sound a bit clearer. I don't know, because I've tried to remove a bit of the muck from the original, because I basically just took it from another YouTube vid. But because it's 1965, I think it's public domain and all that stuff. But if it's not, it might get pulled. Now it's presented. There we go. You see, the first thing he starts off with, I've got a shocking fact, which is actually, I'd argue, what Gail Dines does. She always tries to shock people. I mean, she really does go heavy into it. Shock, shock, shock. In this film, I think he starts telling people that the boys will turn homosexual by watching porn. Again, I'll go for the Gail Dines vids later because it's too much at the moment. Yeah, now we're listening. Yeah, it's always the kids it's always protect the kids, and that's what a lot of the anti. That's what they play on. This protect the kids. The kids are going to be affected. Blah blah blah. Hang on. Yeah. Now that's it. Now he's talking about saying that by watching porn, it'll change your sexuality. Yeah, it does interest me, the comparison. I often think, I wonder, has Gail Dines actually simply just watched this footage and redone it in her own words? Now, in this film, to try and shock you, it quotes everything as perversion and abnormal sex, which these days I don't think you get away with that unless you're sort of right-wing Christian, because the argument would be nothing's, whatever sexuality you've got is normal. When I was a student nurse, we used to have a thing where it used to be, what is normal? Nothing's normal or something. The argument being that normality doesn't really exist. You see, the trouble is, it's people's normality is from their own point of view. So if they don't, they're not into BDSM or whatever fetish, they consider everyone else abnormal, who are. But anyway, let's go on. Right, now it comes out, this is something quite interesting. It's hitting a sort of made up fact. I mean, I presume there's no evidence of this. It starts saying that 75 to 90% of it ends up in the hands of kids, which the NSP, whatever, I think they did a similar damn silly report, which turned out it wasn't a professional one, it was just something that I think they paid somebody, and they came out with some silly facts such as how much time kids watch porn online, which people get shocked by, but then when you think about it, how the hell does anyone know? You know what I mean? Unless you're sat with watching the kids, you don't know that, what if they're online. It's clearly just made up. So that becomes nonsense in itself. But yeah, it's when you start asking for the facts, that's when things get interesting. I mean, this is 1965, and the base of this footage is that the adults themselves don't really understand about porn. So they're trying to, if we look at today and relate it to the internet, a lot of things Gail Dine does. I mean, she's actually said on one of them, I believe she said it anyway, that on Instagram you can find porn. Well, we know porn's not allowed on Instagram, but she's shocked people who don't really have any technical knowledge by saying all this stuff. And if you're speaking to people with no technical knowledge, you can get with absolute murder. I mean, you can really say anything. You can say, well, people who watch Twitter end up with cancer. You know what I mean? You just make up garbage, untruths. But people don't question it when they're listening. I mean, one of the things that I watched about Gail Dines vids is that I'm not sure if she does let people ask questions at the end, but she seems to try and just go bum 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 all the way through for 30 minutes or whatever, without giving any evidence. I mean, she's got a doctorate, so if you do a degree, you know that you have to provide evidence of everything. I mean, literally everything under the sun, however minute. Well, that's how we were taught anyway. So I presume somebody who's got a doctorate should do it by habit, provide evidence, which is always, that's why bells ring when I listen to Gail Dines, because the presentation to me isn't somebody who's a doctorate. It's almost, they come across sometimes just like a sales rep's presentation. If you've ever been in a sales meeting with somebody who's not particularly bright and just wants to faff about with facts, not facts, but just wants to post anything as if it's evidence. I mean, I've sat in, when I used to do sales, we used to have, some of the sales managers used to just make stuff up. They misquote, they used to quote things from the wrong book. I mean, I used to, because I'd done a degree in business and marketing, I knew the books and I knew the quotations, and I knew what they were saying was completely garbage, but you know, they haven't done any of that, so they just thought they sounded clever. Anyway, let's go on. Now it says, and this is another one, I think I've seen even Gail Dines do this, You hit it with sort of what he says now is, oh, what's the concern? Porn's been around forever, and I think this is one of the things that people in anti-porn do. They say it's been around, which it has. It's been around since Stone Age times, but, and this is what they follow it up by, they always try and make out what's happening now is suddenly of concern. Now in this days, he's quoting magazines, and I don't think he's even doing films or the cinema or anything, or records or books. I think he's just obsessed by the magazines. And obviously, I mean, we know the magazines haven't really done anything to people. But today, we do the same shock and say the same thing about websites, because apparently it's the new thing, and we have to pretend this is different to everything else, which it's not. But this is what this guy is doing. He's saying all the magazines are different to what came before. Let's listen again. Yeah, he's going on to saying how we've never had this modern method before, which is what people say about the internet, and they probably said it about VHS and every other format. It's every time a new format comes out, this format's going to change. And like I keep saying, if it was going to affect people, a cartoon would have an effect on people. It just has no logical sense that one footage has different, something in the porn is different. It's like, it's to suggest, I mean, this is what it always does, it suggests that there's something magical in it, as if someone squirted something toxic within the footage, within the film, or within the words, which doesn't make sense when it comes down to it, because obviously it shouldn't make any difference if you're watching any sort of content, TV or film. That you should be, if you're going to be affected, you'd be affected by everything. Anyway, let's just carry on then. Oh yeah, now it's funny because now we're talking about technology, high speed presses. He says rapid transportation, mass distribution, which is sorry, I can never say the word distribution. I don't think I've said it correct, but so what. But this is the sort of thing we're saying now about the internet, high speed broadband, blah, accessible, blah blah blah. Same argument, just regurgitated. There we go. I note it, and then he says it's the aim is to put the obscenities in front of every man, woman and child. It's always bringing up kids, even though it's unlikely that they were ever sold to kids even in those days. Oh, now we're saying it's increased in volume, which again, the internet has increased. You see, you can almost reword this for the internet. It's fascinating. That's why I'm saying this video might seem a bit old-fashioned, but in reality it's so modern in some ways, because you can just most people who do anti-porn, I mean, this is why I keep saying listen to this damn video, because once you listen to it, you can write the script yourself for the anti-porn people, and you can, even if you've never listened to Gail Dines, listen to this vid, just change the words a bit, and then listen to Gail Dines, and you've probably written her script for her. Yeah, here we go. It's big business, he says, for the mercenary business people, and that's what Gail Dines always on about, the money. Dirt for dirt's sake, he says. Dirt for dirt's sake. No, and then he describes it as dirt for money's sakes, and then he says it's a $2 billion business, which is, if you ever listen, even today I think everyone quotes it as a $2 billion business. Now I don't know where anyone's ever got this figure from. I mean, this is sorry, this is the first time I've ever heard it. Oh, sorry, a little dry cough there. This is the first time I've ever heard it put forward. But everyone regurgitates this as the $2 billion. I mean, if anyone ever says it's a £2 billion or £1,000,000 or whatever, or 20 billion, I mean, you can make up a figure. Ask them where the evidence is, because I keep looking. I've googled it, I can't find it. I mean, I don't know how much it's worth, and the trouble is today people include everything they'll say to push up the price. They'll include strip clubs, advertisers, and all sorts. They really whack it together. Just so virtually anything they can pretend adult related sex toys, they'll whack everything together. Just to build it up. The more they can build it up, the more shocking. Although, to be honest, I think they just make it up. They make up a figure. Anyway, so now it goes on to the homosexuals, lesbians, masochists, deviants. I love that bit. And now he's doing the psychological one. He's quoting psychological names. In fact, I don't think he even quotes them. He tries to suggest these are psychological conditions. Yes, homosexuality is a psychological condition, according to him. Which is, I suspect those who are right-wing Christians probably come out with the same thing. I think they're still quoting homosexuality has been a curable disease. And often the people who say that turn out to be gay themselves. Anyway, let's carry on. Abnormalities, he starts saying. Abnormalities. It's good. This is something else as well Gail Downs does. She uses words to shock people. It's a tactic. The more shocking you can push forward, the more effect you can probably have. And it's what people do when people listen to them. I've seen the quotes from a lot. Well, they tend to be women, and they're always saying, "Oh, shocking! This, shocking!" I'm glad Gail Downs has brought this to attention without ever questioning it. It's just because she managed to do it in a shocking way. She'll just come out with shock, 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 shock. Doesn't matter if it's true. Shock. If you look at porn, your kids are going to grow up with 10 heads. Shocking. Yes, that's right, folks. Shock, shock, shock. That's how you do it. And people believe them. Oh, now it's saying it's good. These porn people are telling kids it's good to be sadists and homosexuals. I mean, the one thing that's interesting is for 1965, I wouldn't have imagined they would have covered such as S&M and stuff. To me, that's I thought that was more modern. Shows you, I presume it's been around for years. Well, it has, hasn't it? I mean, I think the Victorians were into it and all sorts. In fact, let's be honest. What was his name? The little. Well, it wasn't. It was. I think it was Italian, wasn't he? Napoleon. I think it was Italian. And I know he wasn't French. And he was a bit anti the old porn there, wasn't he? Because he put the porn shoppy into, I think, a mental asylum. The old Dessard. Oh God, I had his name the other minute. Something to Dessard. I'll probably do a thing about him later. Marquis de Lassard or something, wasn't his name? Brilliant film. If you've ever seen it, it's if you've not seen it, it's quite shocking actually. I mean, don't forget Napoleon's not that long ago. The Napoleon times, they're quite recent. I mean, it's one of the things when you look at things. In fact, I'm slightly going off subject. I was looking. There was a president from Napoleon times. I think it was either just slightly before, just slightly after, and his grandsons are still alive now. That's his grandsons. My mate thought I was joking when I said this, and apparently it was because when his wife died, he married, I think, in his 70s or something, and had kids very late in his 70s, and then his son did the same thing. So bizarrely, it means that his grandkids are still alive, which is mental to me. Anyway, that's going off subject. I forget the president's name. I just love stuff like that. Some of them presidents are quite fun people. I mean, the other fun fact I always like is the chappie, Teddy. Is it Teddy Roosevelt? The Teddy chap, the one who refused to shoot a bear because that someone had tied it up and it was lame. I think that's why he got the name Teddy. Well, one of his stories is apparently, and it was completely, and this is shows you, it's still people believe it now. Apparently, he went on holiday, and on one of his adventures, he came across oh God, what do they call them fish that eat you? You see them on, oh God, I've forgotten the name. They've got teeth and they attack you. You see them on the James Bond films and stuff. Well, apparently it was made up. He came out with this tale about putting some meat in or something, and it just ravished everything. Apparently they're not that vicious. I think they still eat meat, but they don't act like you see on the films. But not scorpions. Why am I thinking scorpions? Clearly they're not even fish. This trouble when you're dyslexic, and so I'm doing this quite late in the morning, or late at night, whatever you want to see it as. And the dog's wanting to go down. Hang on, I've got to get some new batteries for this thing. I'm going to use my rechargeable ones. I've got some cheap batteries, from the pound shop, and they just drain straight away. So I don't know if this will record fully. Let's carry on. I might not do the full video, so it's going to go on. Now he says, and this is, I don't think people say this anymore, but they might do. It starts going on about saying the FBI, all the religious organisations, basically it's everyone, claims the evidence is that porn is the reason why society is collapsing. Now it says this will lead to the communist masters of deceit. Not sure what that means. I'm not sure. It doesn't sound like he's suggesting it's going to bring in communism. I'm not sure. It's a strange thing to say when it's a capitalist system. It's also, one of the things that Gail Dines goes, she declares herself as left wing, and if you're into, one of the interesting things about communism is actually, I think it was East Germany. Was it East Germany? I always get confused which was the communist side. Whichever side it was, I think they actually accepted porn as art. It's one of the things about communism is it doesn't necessarily mean that if you that they're anti-porn, because it can be argued, and I think it was by some, that it was an art form. I've always said it's an art form because it's imagery, blah blah blah. So I think in fact some of the systems actually paid for porn, because they're into paying for art. Anyway, it's just an interesting thought. I might even do a subject about communism and porn, see what I can find. I've seen a few footages going around that was made by the communist countries, so it was definitely there for some. I don't think it was looked down upon. I know in China they're anti it, but I don't think they're that fully fussed. I think publicly China's sort of anti it, but I think I've heard that you can go into most shops and buy it under the counter and the police just turn a blind eye. I don't think they're that bothered as much. It's the sort of, you get a slap on the wrist, by the sounds of it. That's why, the biggest system that seems to be going to kick in soon is England. We're supposed to be bringing the most communist style censorship of porn going. Great. That's 2019 and England's turning more communist than ever. Let's look at what's happening this year, being in more and more forced taxation of this BBC licence, which is a disgrace. Not even sure. Sorry, the dog's wagging his tail on the speaker. I don't know if that's picked up. That's a communist system in reality. And then you've got the dogs are play fighting, which is, they're just wrecking everything. And now you've got this censorship kicking in. And we've also got cameras everywhere. This is ridiculous. When you actually look at what's going on in England, it's shocking. It's not fit, it's the opposite. You can't tell a joke, you go to prison. In fact, this is the state we're in now. You say anything and it's the police around investigating. They investigate for everything. If you're not even allowed to You even can be prosecuted in case you're thinking something, not even if you're doing it. I mean, you've got to justify everything now in England. Absolutely disgraceful. I mean, it really is. We've come to the end, really, in England. Whereas you can't. I don't think you could get further much more communist than it is now in England. I mean, got to think of something that it is first. I mean, the police are there now, set up to come back. I mean, if you get burgled, they'll ignore you. But if you say a joke, you'll be arrested. This is a state. Anyway, that's me going off subject. But welcome to the communist state of England. Well done. I mean, you might as well have carbon in. Let's just fully bring it into a communist system. We'll be the first. We'll probably be the biggest communist ever going. Probably bigger communist than Russia was. USSR, should I say. I mean, even China will be thinking we're a bit ridiculously communist soon. Now he's going on to give examples. Oh, Gail Downs did this actually. It's fun when Gail Downs does examples of what porn is, because I can't know where it's all violence. I mean, I don't know where she's looking. I've never seen any of this, but apparently she finds it straight away. She said in some of her vids. She's gone, oh yeah, I went on to my computer and it's there in front of me apparently. Well, that's the way she suggested it. I mean, she's always going on about this ultraviolet porn, which I've never ever seen. But apparently it's there. Apparently YouTube, that's all you ever see on the porn sites, on the porn tube sites. Apparently there's nothing, there's no lesbian or any gay porn. It's just all women being beaten up. I mean, I'll go through again some of her vids, but they are fun to listen to. How she describes things. And I will break it down. I'll graphically describe what she says, and I'll go online and I'll see if we can find any of these videos. We'll see if we can back up her claims. I mean, a lot of people get shot by that, because if they're not looking for porn, they believe her. They go, oh, it must be true. One of the dogs is just I don't know why my little dog. She's just laid on the floor in the time of her life. I'm in a fight with a big one. Bizarre. Spiders don't hurt each other. Anyway, I'm a bit sleepy, by the way. I don't know if it comes across I'm tired. It's I think it's about 1 o'clock in the morning or something. It's probably later than that. Should be in bed now, but I end up doing. I thought if I do it now, the dogs might be asleep, but no. They decided to wake up and play fight, so they're now more noisy than they were earlier. Yeah. Telling you where you can buy all these hideous magazines. What's the malt shop, I wonder? It's showing you pictures of magazines now. Oh, the girly magazines is talking. 15 million copies, they say. I mean, the pictures they're showing are basically... These are 1965 ones, so you basically don't see anything except, I think, boobies. I mean, I don't think these would be shocking now. I mean, I think you could even get away with these in adverts just about. Because the pictures, they'll have been, I presume, because they'll be put on sheet paper. I don't think they'll be their sharpest of pictures. The pictures are showing look a bit blurry, but I don't know if they'd have been better. Well, I presume they'd be slightly better quality in real life, but they tended to be. I mean, if you ever look at pictures from 1965 in the adult scene, they're not the most exciting things. They're quite dull, if anything. I mean, I suppose there's nudity there, but you know, it's the girls usually got pants on, or they're not shaven, and they're not. It's all done on black and white pictures often, and it's quite grainy. They don't even look like they're using decent film. I mean, I think in more recent times they'd use, for magazines, they tended to go for the medium format footage, because that blows up better. You know, you can make it much better without losing quality. The trouble with them in those days, I presume they use 35mm film, which doesn't, you don't get the quality once you blow it up. It's alright for little pocket pictures, but apart from that, you don't really get much quality. I mean, these days with digital, I think you can, well, you can blow them quite big because they've got more, I think they've got more grain than the old film, but I might be wrong. However, the first two pictures look, I mean, the girl looks a bit like Marilyn Monroe. I don't think it was Marilyn Monroe, but they're not, they're nothing that exotic, really. A bit dull. I mean, these days, I don't think anyone will be shocked by these pictures. So basically, it goes on virtually the same, and it ends up with some sort of religious thing. I think it says, "Let hope God protects us" or something. I forget. I haven't watched, haven't played it to the end because it gets a bit boring, to be honest. But as I say, it's as a bit of history. It's very interesting to listen to because you can see where people who are anti-porn get a lot of information from, or at least it might be from somebody else, but I think the source seems to be from this footage and the style and everything. I mean, like I said, Gail Dines seems to copy this perfectly. Anyway, I'll do a few Gail Dine vids later. I just thought I'd do this quickly because it is a piece of interesting bit of footage. And if it does get removed, just Google it. I think it's on Google all over the place, or, well, I mean, on YouTube all over. So that's just me for today, folks. The dogs are... if you hear this rattling in the background, it's the dogs jumping on things. I'm trying to get them to settle down, but it's a real pain. They insist on coming through and into this room that I've set up. I was hoping they'd just fall asleep in the other room for 5 minutes. I mean, like I said, when I'm only doing this for a few minutes, they could stay there for a few minutes, but I think they think they're missing out on food or something. So that's the one for today. Oh, if you want to leave comments, I don't give a rat's ass about views or anything. I'm not making any money from it. I hate when people go, leave a comment. No, I'm so interested. No, you're not. You know it'll bump up your ratings. I mean, that's how I think YouTube works. The more people post comments, the more it pushes. I don't know how it works. It's bores the crap out of me, to be honest. Not interested. Anyway, thanks for listening. I mean, like I said, I'm doing this just to entertain myself. I'm not bothered if you think it's rubbish. I don't care, to be honest. I'm doing it just to get... It's just, like I said, it's just to get it out of my system. Anyway, thanks for listening, folks.